Welcome back to Heart of the Woods. I am very much recording this in the middle of the night, like I said I might do after recording the previous one. So let's just see what happened last episode. I believe that Tara confessed her love to Morgan, who responded by confessing her love for Tara. And if they make it out of this alive, they're going to officially be a couple. Yay! Also, Abigail and Maddie, I don't know why I forgot her name there, can be seen by Evelyn, and Evelyn also brought Morgan out and cut her wrist and used her blood magic or something to, like, kill the tree spirit, I think. And that's where we are. Oh, and we met fairies. I almost forgot. I can't believe I forgot about that. So, yeah. Here we go. We're back to Maddie's perspective. It's been a weird morning. Usually when I get up, Abigail's awake and ready to go. And usually, she has been for several hours. This morning, though, I awoke to find her dozing nearby, long past when she'd normally be up. She complained about having a headache, so we decided to take a walk through the forest to clear her head. Didn't know ghosts could get headaches. So far, it seemed to have had the opposite effect, though, and we've been walking in an uncomfortable silence. It's been maybe an hour or so since we first noticed the buzzing. At first, it was very faint, like the sound of the wind or the rustling trees, but then it started to get louder and louder. Fairies! It's the first word she's said in ages. She pulls me closer to her as the buzzing gets closer. Sure enough, the source of the noise soon comes into view. Dozens of fairies, maybe even as many as 100, flooded past overhead. They form a cloud rushing through the forest, nimbly weaving over and under the branches. When I first saw fairies back in the clearing, their movements were graceful and delicate, but now they're frenetic and urgent. The swarm travels right towards us. They don't seem to notice or care about us at all. The buzzing has grown to an almost ear-splitting level, and I realize it comes from their wings. Like bees, the tiny wings beat rapidly to keep them up. They're a blur against the fairies' snowy-looking bodies. Suddenly, several of the fairies split off from the rest and dive towards us. I fling up my hands to protect myself, but they come to a halt overhead. This is my first chance to get a good look at them. Their bodies are smooth and pale blue with a whitish tinge. Their eyes are beady and small, looking more like tiny flecks of obsidian than anything with sight. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about the fairy design here. I like that they have different styles of wings. I think that's a really nice touch. And like that they have this like sort of flower style to them, but in different ways. Like the blonde fairy here, I love that her hair is seemingly like rose shaped. That is really cool. And the white-haired one to the right here with her little hat is cute. Yeah, just really good designs overall. I like them a lot. I didn't get a good look at them last episode because they kept just swooshing past the screen. But I guess I sort of get what Maddie meant by them not looking human now, because like they don't have legs and they have like she said beady eyes, and yeah, I like the design though. They're cute. They're nice. At first, it looks like they're wearing gowns. But then I realized that what looked like clothes are part of their body. Colorful plumage help make each fairy distinct from one another. Oh, it's not clothes? Oh my. Okay, that's interesting. Rather than legs, their bodies taper off into a point, like little ballerinas. Like snowflakes, no two look the same. One of them turns a somersault while the other hover anxiously. No. Okay. Oh dear. I need another voice. Our queen. Is that you? Have you returned? Their voices are all identical. Thank fuck. Squeaky and raspy. Oh, okay. Yet impressively loud despite their tiny size. It takes a second for me to realize that they're addressing me. I'm sorry, I'm not your queen. I'm just an ordinary human. A human? Ordinary? Don't think so. They crowd in a little bit closer, their finger grabbing the empty air as if to pick me up and carry me away. I take a step backwards, with Abigail still holding tight to my arm, but the fairies just creeping even closer, their wings beat hummingbird fast, distractingly loud. I promise, I'm just a regular person. You're mistaken if you think I'm your queen. A mistake? Have you seen her? We've been looking. We haven't seen her. We haven't seen anything like her. I have no idea what a fairy queen looks like, but I'm sure I haven't seen anything that fits the description. How long has she been missing? It's hard to say. Did you know? Time is a human concept. Their answers aren't helpful at all. They at least understood my question, which means they have some knowledge of time, but doesn't make a difference though. The rest of the swarm has moved on, the bustling fading once again, but they don't seem bothered. If we see her, I'll be sure to tell her you're looking. That won't be needed. She surely knows. That's why she's our queen. The fairy's peculiar way of speaking, in turn, is almost comical. Since they haven't left us alone yet, I assure that they're still expecting or hoping for something. I'm a little afraid to find out what. Do the three of you have names? We don't. We have no need. Names are for humans too. They all nod in unison. Given everything else about them seems to be insect-like, I just assume that they have a hive mind of sorts. It would fit with everything else I know about the forest. I'm getting a bit tired of all the different networks and connections. It's silly, but it feels a little like not knowing the password to our friend's Wi-Fi. To help keep them straight in my mind, I give each of them a name. The one with the purple flower is Hey, Anan has the blonde hair, and the last one is Frio. Okay. Beside me, Abigail tugs at my sleeve surreptitiously. She's angled away from the conversation, trying to lead me out of it. I turn back to the fairies, putting on my best customer service voice. We have to go now. It was nice to meet you. I hope you're able to find your queen soon. I don't want to turn my back on them, so I wait for them to say their farewells and leave. But instead, they come in even closer, causing Abigail to gasp. Don't go. What if you stayed? You could be our queen. You would do. We could make it so. It would be easy. Alarm bells ringing in my head, I start to step backwards, with Abigail keeping right on me. There isn't anyone else. Not everyone is suitable. But you are. Let us show you what it'd be like. We can give you a taste. Would that be alright? They're bustling and flittering slow as 3 pairs of eyes stare at us. Abigail squeezes my arm. I move my mouth to say no, but the way their gaze pierces into me roots me to the spot. Like tiny dancers adorned with glitter, their skin shimmers in the low light flittering through the clouds. Madison? Come on, let's go. But I can't. Or rather, I don't want to. Not yet. What if they know something useful, Abigail? We know lots of things. Secret things, clever things. We can know you too. They're pests. Their buzzing is a little loud, and their voices a little too shrill, but... You don't belong here. We can tell. But wouldn't you like to belong? Oh god, when they cross their arms, they're adorable. Look at that. That is so cute. Oh, that's even better. Yes, zoom in on them. They creep a little closer in a synchronized motion. They're close enough now that I could reach out and grab one if I wanted to, or slap them away. I don't though. A place to belong. Could they really offer that? What exactly do you mean? I can feel Abigail's grip tighten around my coat, but she doesn't say anything. Sensing an opening, the fairies circle dizzyingly around our heads. The forest doesn't reject you. But it doesn't accept you either. We can change that though. Whatever it is you want. Whatever you're searching for. If you help us. Wouldn't you like that? With a jolt, I turn to face Abigail. I'm sure she knows what I'm thinking. Whatever I want. There's only one thing. Freedom. Abigail stares back at me for a moment and then presses herself against me. Looking up at the fairies, I nod. Okay, just a taste. Excited, they dive downwards until they're level with my face. Abigail cringes but doesn't let go. As one, the fairies close in, placing their hands on my face like they're checking my temperature. Their hands are frigid, painfully so. It's amplified by the fact that I haven't felt cold in days. My hands jerk upwards out of instinct, ready to pry them away, but I don't. Then, one of the fairies move their hands to cover my lips. One cover my ears, and the other cover my eyes. For a split second, I feel like I'm falling through the air. And then it all hits me. All I see is black. I'm alone, and yet hundreds of presences flood my consciousness all at once. I can tell they're fairies, but I don't know how I can tell. I'm bombarded by their awareness like tiny darts, not using words or thoughts or intentions, but just feeling. They're somehow distant, as if behind a wall, but so present. I try to find the semi-familiar presence of Hay, Frio, and Élan, but they're indistinguishable from the rest. There's no individuality, no sense of identity at all. There's just the fairies as a whole. But I can feel what they're feeling. Panic and anger and hurt all churned together. The feeling of being lost, of not knowing where to go or what to do, but not being able to sit still. Though I can't tie it to any particular memory or event, the feeling hits me so strongly, so undiluted that I think I might cry. I can feel that they've been scared by something, but I don't know what that something is. Then, at last, I feel a nudge within my mind, the sensation of being noticed. The presence takes me in, welcoming me. It occurs to me that I no longer exist. I try to ask what's going on, but I don't need to. The moment the question forms, the presence with me start to answer. Images play in my head, ones I've never seen before. They're grainy like an old film. If I try to focus on a particular detail, the whole thing becomes muddy. I can see flames burning away at the forest. The fire is so real I can almost feel its warmth, but when I start to focus on it, that too vanishes. The presence of the fairies weighs on my mind, an uninvited audience to the next part. I can see a fairy stumbling alone, but something's wrong with it. I realize instantly I can't feel its presence, where it should be. It's just a gaping hole, so vast and profound that it hurts by sheer exclusion. It's agonizing. I want to tear my heart out of my chest so I don't have to feel it anymore. The presence of the fairies, the whole nest, tries to reach after it and to fill the hole, but it won't allow itself to be touched. The moonlight overhead, which I crave, falls onto the lone fairy who hastens to escape it. The lone fairy flees, and the rest of them, the rest of us, mourn. One word pulses through my head, both a condemnation and a reassurance. One word, though I don't know what it means. Moonsick. Moonsick. Moonsick, 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 moonsick. The vision twists, and I can see a woman, but she isn't a woman. She's also a fairy, but not just. I'm so happy and relieved to see her that I just know that she's the fairy queen. I can feel how much she misses the lone fairy. I know because I miss her too, desperately. I can see her searching, her hope never fading until one day she's gone. The loss is even greater this time. A sick mixture of guilt and shame plagues me because I don't know where she is. I don't even know how long she's been missing. How could I have not noticed? The loneliness is so great that I want to do anything to erase it. Another silver flickers just out of sight, but I can't keep track of it. We all have to watch it together, and then I realize it's me. But just like the fairy queen I saw before, it's also not me. Visions of time pass, months, years, centuries, and throughout them all, the loneliness is gone. It all feels right. I could fix this. Their fairies remove their hands from me, and I burst back into the real world with a mighty gasp for air. Madison, are you alright? The fairies start back up, away from the furious glare that Abigail gives them. All I can feel now is her hand clutching me, and I put my arm on her shoulder for support. My head spins, and for a second I think I might fall over. The dizzy spell passes soon. Once I'm confident I'm not going to collapse, I nod. I'm fine. How long was I out? Abigail's face flickers into a look of confusion. She presses her hand to my forehead. Out? I didn't think they'd even begun. What? I watched the fairies, struggling to comprehend how so much could have happened in an instant like that. There's no way. We told you, didn't... Oh, something wrong. We told you, didn't we? We aren't bound by time. Join us, and you won't be either. Now that you have seen, and now that you've felt, will you join us? Eyes wide, Abigail looks up at me. She doesn't have to say anything for me to know she's begging me to decline. I wish she could have felt how warm it was. How nice it was to belong like that. Yet at the same time, it feels like a distant dream now. Something detached and fading. I try to remember the sensation, but I can't. It's water slipping through my fingers. It seemed so real, but it wasn't. It was only a second. I can't sign my life away to the fairies for 1 second of visions. No matter how right it felt, no matter how comfortable. I'm sure that I was just seeing what they wanted me to see. I smile at Abigail and then shake my head, rejecting the fairies. I'm sorry, but I can't. Thank you for showing me what it would be like, though. How can we persuade you? We need our queen soon. You could be our only hope. I know you do, but I'm sorry. That just can't be me. We hope you'll change your mind. We'll be waiting for you. We'll be waiting for a queen. With that, they turn tail and dart off in the same direction that their swarm had gone. Soon, all trace of them is gone, like they'd never even been here. Madison, are you sure you're alright? Yeah, I'm sure. It was just a lot. Was I really that fast? Yes, they touched your face, and then a moment later you gasped. That's insane. It felt like a long time, like years had passed. Abigail looks troubled, staring off into the forest where the fairies disappeared. Fairy magic is strange, beyond me. They're similar to the forest spirit, and yet... different, but in a way you can't put into words. That's right. You certainly did see a lot, didn't you? Yeah, I guess so. Have you ever met their queen, or seen what she looks like? Just once, long ago. She and the forest spirit are both guardians of the forest. Did you see her in your vision? I think back to what I saw as best I can remember. The image shifts and shakes in my head, not wanting to be called to mind. More than what she looked like, I just remember how I felt. So happy and relieved to see her. I did, but I didn't get a clear look at her. I knew who she was, but I don't know if I'd ever recognize her if I passed her on the street. Do you think you could mistake me for her? Do you think you could mistake me for her, like they did? Absolutely not. You're much prettier than she is. Abigail says it very matter-of-factly, as if she didn't just give me an enormous compliment. And she carries on like it too. Be still, my beating heart. But to the fairies, I expect it's hard for them to tell the difference between humans. So maybe you looked like her to them. I wonder how long the queen's been gone. It seemed like they've been coping just fine without her, until something happened to scare them. Something like what? Something hot and bright. Something burning. Something that hurt to think about. I don't know. I think it had to do with fire, maybe? So much of what I saw felt real, but most of it wasn't. Fire. Worry creases her face. What's wrong? Did you remember something? No. It was just a thought. Rather than elaborate, she fidgets with her hands. I don't push the subject. Maybe that's enough fresh air for today. We can head back to the church. Alright. I'm pretty sure to take the hint of relief in her voice. So, Geladura is definitely the fairy queen, right? She has to be. If so, I just need to point out, I think every single character in this game that has a voice, or a name rather, because no one has a voice, is a girl, right? Well, I guess the fairies are probably actually a gender. They definitely probably do not have the concept of gender. That's too human for them. But still, I think that's really neat. Okay. For the first time, I lead the way home. At least I hope it's the way. I'm reasonably confident. At my side, Abigail remains quiet and lost in her thoughts. With one hand, she clings limply to my sleeve, trusting my navigation. I don't disturb her, instead concentrating on remembering the path. It's to challenge myself. I'm sure that if necessary, Abigail will be able to lead us home from anywhere. Still, I'm beginning to fear that I've led us astray when the grim walls of the church start to come into view. A mixture of relief and pride flows through me. It's also a little bittersweet. I come to think of the church as home, even though I've never felt that way about the cabin. Despite the fact that the concept of home is just a formality now. Surrounding ourselves with walls and a roof doesn't change a whole lot. Clouds are beginning to settle overhead, muting the daylight and making everything murky. It feels fitting for the mood. Abigail speeds up a bit as we reach the doors, and she's the first one inside. She sits down on one of the benches, fatigued. Mind if I join you? I gesture at the open spot beside her. Please do. Oh, this CG again. Wordlessly, she rests her head against my shoulder. Headache still? She nods. I'm afraid so. Our encounter there shouldn't help. I'm sure. They gave me a headache of sorts too. More of a notion that I can't get out of my head. The fairies outstanding offer assist with me. As hard as I try, I can't fully push the idea away. If there isn't any other way out of this, then maybe being a fairy queen would be preferable to just being a normal ghost. As long as I could still have Abigail with me. That's a last resort though. Because for as long as I can, I have to hold out hope that things can just go back to normal. That Tara and I can leave Eisenfeld the same way we arrived. And that we can take Abigail with us. Beside me, Abigail shifts her head just a little. I'm sorry. Am I bothering you like this? Not at all. I wonder if she's close enough to hear my heart beating. Maybe it can't always be like this. Because for now, it's alright. Although it's been a couple of days since we met the fairies and they made their offer, I haven't been able to get it out of my head. The visions themselves are just slush by now, with the memories of them having eroded into non-existence. But the feelings remain. The feeling of belonging and of freedom. Okay, so I have a bit of a problem here. Almost like in every time they change scenes, they go like, it's been a couple of days since this, but they were always supposed to be here a month. And nothing that had been said have indicated that Tara has spent her time longer than the month they were supposed to be here. I'm starting to worry that either the writers lost track of like the days that they're spending here, or it's just I just interpret a couple of days more than just a literal 2 days. I guess I'll just roll with it for now. There's something else I can't get out of my head though, and she's sitting right beside me. Ah yeah, time for love confession number 2, hopefully. Medicine, here they come. Sure enough, a mother deer and her fawn comes traipsing out of the bushes, no doubt on the way to get a drink. Starlight and the waxing moon make them look like ghosts at first, barely visible in the dusk. Upon entering the clearing, they see us and both freeze. Abigail smiles encouragingly, reaching out a hand towards them. After a moment's hesitation, the fawn takes one tentative step towards us, then another, and another. This one's name is Alma. Hello, Alma. I greet the same way I would greet my friend's dog or cat. Deciding we're not a threat, the mother deer goes to the pond, while the baby one creeps even closer. Abigail never moves towards it, never pushing too far. Then it nuzzles her hand, leading into a soft scratching motion of her fingers. God, I wish that was me. I added that last part. Is this the deer that was watching you sing the other day? Most likely. Alma's a little bit shy and sometimes prefer to keep her space. You know this deer pretty well, huh? Of course, we're very good friends. To demonstrate, she strokes Alma's tawny neck. She doesn't even have to sit up to do it. She doesn't even have to sit up to do so. Stefan's face is just about level with her shoulders from where we're sitting on the ground. Alma closes her eyes, clearly enjoying the attention. Would you like to pet her? I'm certain she'd let you. Sure. I lean forward, my hand outstretched like Abigail was. But the second I move, Alma's eyes go wide and she bounces away into the darkness. Her mother watches, alarmed, from the shoreline. Guess not. Alma, come back! I promise Madison won't hurt you. She's just as sweet as you are. I'm glad for the darkness and that she can't see me blush. When she stopped looking, I scoot a little closer to Abigail. Just a bit. The hanging fairy baubles help to illuminate the young deer. What? Oh! The hanging fairy baubles help to illuminate the young deer, who watches from a safe distance. None of the fairies themselves seem to be around, though. It takes a bit. With Abigail and I both sitting silently, but the fawn chooses to come back after all. Her steps are still reluctant, and ready to dart away at any second. She lets Abigail pet her, but watches me warily while it happens. I'm really messing up a lot today. I don't mind. I'm content just to watch, and enjoy seeing how happy it makes them both. How long have you known Alma? It must have been a while for her to trust you like this. Oh yes, I've known her for her whole life, and I've known her mother since she was small too. Abigail waves at the mother deer by the pond, who's returned to sating her thirst. That's amazing. I can only imagine the patience, time, and dedication must have taken to earn the trust of the woodland creatures. Still, all things considered, I'm not surprised they make an exception for someone like Abigail. She exudes comfort. I'm not sure how else to describe it, and I've certainly never felt anything like it before. Maybe being close to her is just as comforting for the deer as it is for me. Do you have any other animal friends that I'll get to meet? Oh, certainly. If you'd like. I'm sure Mr. Bear is asleep for the season. But perhaps once he wakes up. There's also a pack of wolves around, but for Alma's sake, that would be best left to another time. The deer nuzzles her hand in agreement, and Abigail coos contentedly at it. None are quite so friendly as Alma and the rest of the deer, though. When I was a child, I wanted to have a deer for a pet. I thought that perhaps I could learn to ride one like a horse. My sister and I would look for footprints in the snow and track them for as long as we could. She looks up at me, smiling despite the melancholy tone her voice has taken on. We never got very far, of course. Hardly a few feet into the forest. But to children like us, it was quite an adventure. You must miss her a lot. Abigail hardly ever mentions her family. I find that despite how long it's been, their memories must still be painful. She smiles thinly. In a sense. The deer is still luxuriating under her caress. Her hand moves rhythmically and gently, alternating between petting and scratching Alma's neck. I'm going to have a sip of my tea and see if that helps my stutter a bit. If you don't know, yes, I have a stutter. I've done my best to practice it away, but it still comes back. It still comes back, which sucks, but you know, not much I can do. She relaxes a little, resting against my side but continuing to pet the deer. More than anything, I miss the days of wonder and awe, back when the forest and all of its creatures were still a mystery. Sometimes I wish it could be like that again. They could be unknown. You wish that you hadn't met them? No, not at all. At least not given the circumstances. I'm quite grateful for the companionship they've given me. For so many years they've been one of the few sources of company that I've had. While my love for them has never diminished, I've come to the conclusion that it's grown to the most it can grow as well. That's simply what the world has become for me. A small world of knowns and nothing more. She looks away from the deer and back at me. A few tears spot her face, but she doesn't look sad. In fact, she's beaming. And then I met you, Madison. Moonlight frames her face. The lovely night sky, the fairy tale friendly deer, the ethereal woman. It's an image straight out of a painting. More like gay out of a painting. You were my first unknown in countless years. The first soul I could speak with that I didn't yet understand. And what a wonderful unknown you turned out to be. I'm frozen again. I've never had anyone say anything that sweet to me. How am I supposed to respond to something like that? I try to calm my heart as it hammers in my chest, Looking at her soft expression only serves to accelerate its rhythm. I, thank you. That's really, really sweet. I think you're wonderful too. Her free hand darts out to grab mine before I have a chance to react as her eyes widen even more, nearly startling the deer away. Do you really mean that, Madison? I really do. You're an incredible person. I can't imagine having to go through what you've been through without losing any sort of capacity for joy, but here you are, still so full of energy and positivity. I hope that I can maintain that sort of optimism. Abigail lets go of the deer and fling her arms around me in a tight hug. It's a pretty awkward position because of how we're sitting together, but I don't mind. I hug her back as best as I can, my only anchor in the storm of chaos that my life has become. Indignant, Alma slicks her ears back and darts off towards the trees again. Without letting me go, Abigail cranes her neck to watch, this time not calling the deer back. Alma's mother bounces over to join her daughter, and they both go careening off. I lean my head down to rest against Abigail's in what has become a familiar position. When did we get so comfortable with each other? Being like this just feels natural. She parts from me after a moment, sitting up straight again. She tilts her head up to look at the stars, and I gaze with her. The night is mostly clear, except for a few wispy clouds. All is still quiet and calm. Even the pains of the forest don't seem to reach us here. I wouldn't call myself an optimist. I blink, surprised by her sudden words. I don't, nor have I ever really had much hope. There are small comforts and delights, but those aren't the same thing as hope. I can remember names and faces, and even dreams and aspirations that I once had. But do you know what the most curious part of it is? She glances at me, and I notice tears in her eyes. Without thinking, I reach up and brush them away. No reaction. My heart pounds in my chest, nervous about something that I can't identify, or that maybe I'm unwilling to accept, afraid to be wrong about. What is it? I can't remember how it felt for those dreams to be within reach. Even with my meager, lonely existence, there was still a chance. As unlikely as it would have been, there was always a possibility that someday something would change. Something might happen. There was a light, so to speak, to look forward to. And the day that I died, that light went out. More tears, replacing the ones I wiped away, sparkle in her eyes. I move to repeat the motion before, but this time she stops my hands, holding them in her own between us. I never gave thought to what this unlife might be keeping me from. Not from the life I left behind, but whatever it is I would have been met with had I lived to the end of my days. For a long time I considered myself lucky, that I was free from hurt and pain and worry and loss. Even if they were predictable and boring, my years here in the forest haven't been unpleasant. But I've never been optimistic. I've never had anything to look forward to. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine meeting someone as perfect as you. Never did I imagine that I would be happy again. I understand. I know what she's saying, and more importantly, what she means. A shiver runs down my spine. But Madison, I don't deserve this happiness. Not at the cost of your own. I keep thinking how it'd been a bit faster, or if I'd been a bit faster or more decisive, perhaps I could have saved you. That day in the snow. And that even if not, I don't know what future I've stolen from you. I don't know what await those who pass on. All I know is that this unlife and its permanence, and the way that you deserve better. She's crying now, fully. Her chest heaves into a sob, and I pull her close to me in as tight a hug as I can manage. As kindly and delicate as I can, as gently as she always treats me, I hold her and sway gently, as much as our position will allow. I can tell, just from the way she cries, She's been holding this in for long. For a long, long time. I let her let it all out. It must have hurt so bad to be feeling this way. I speak in a whisper. It's not your fault at all. Don't ever blame yourself for any of this. I know I don't. Ever since we met, that day in the forest clearing, all you've done is made things better for me. I don't know if I ever told you this, but during those first days after we met, seeing you again was all that I could look forward to. I'd go to bed thinking about you and wake up the next morning thinking about you. As for everything else, to be honest, I don't know how to feel about a lot of it. So much of it is just hard to process. I thought that it would get easier with time, but it hasn't. But there is one thing I know. One thing that I'm absolutely sure of. I squeeze her hands and I see her startle, just a bit. No matter what I'm missing out on, I'm sure I'd rather be here with you. I mean it. Every word of it. I've never really put too much thought into an afterlife or anything like that, but any time spent here with Abigail is time well spent. Time well spent. And if that means eternity, then, well, so be it. Beside me, Abigail gazes into my eyes wondrously. Her lips move as she searches for the words she wants to say. Madison? She shifts as the starlight caresses her face, perfect and yet not nearly as luminous as she is. May I kiss you? For once in my life, I don't overthink it. Yes. Her eyelids flutter and close. Her breathing trembles then steadies. I empty my head of any other thoughts. And I press my lips to hers. This is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Aww. I love them. So soft and so warm. As delicate as the fresh fallen snow, as sweet as cotton candy. Her form shivers against me and I place an arm around her for support and for comfort, mutually. I can feel her getting more confident and more relaxed, as 200 years of loneliness are melted away one by one, and we're left with just two souls sharing a first kiss under the night sky. It feels so right, that we've been through so much sadness and loss, that we're now able to share this moment of joy. Not just share it, but to be able to offer it to each other. It's our light at the end of the tunnel. When we finally part, my lips still feel electrified. She regards me with a coy expression, but a happy one. That was even more wonderful than the many times I imagined it. I hope it was worth the wait. I'd wait another 200 years if it was the only way I get to kiss you again. I promise you won't have to. To prove it, I lean forward and give her another quick peck on the lips. Abigail leans against my side yet again. We've done this several times before, but... double times again. That seems to be a recurring editing miss in this game, actually, the double words. I wonder how that came to be. Because that seems like the kind of thing that doesn't happen in writing, but must have happened in editing somehow. That some edit to the script caused there to be a double use of the word where something else was supposed to be fixed. Because it's very rare for someone to accidentally write the same word twice. I mean, it's possible that's what happened, I guess. But yes, I'm just speaking as someone who does a lot of writing. And there's a lot of mistakes in my writing. From my experience, that's a very rare thing to happen during the creative writing process, and normally something that comes out of a mistake in editing. But it's never felt like this. It's never felt this right. Everything feels a little bit brighter now. Our next day passes blissfully. We wander through the forest, seeing all our favorite spots. The comfort of our new relationship makes the time we spend together even more joyful. Everything is prettier when I'm seeing it with Abigail beside me. Of course, as has become our tradition, we end up back at the mystical fairy grove. We settle into our favorite spots by the shore with the perfect view of the pond. As much as I love films, I've never been a big fan of romantic scenes. They always feel so forced. The soaring music, the obvious atmosphere, the cheesy dialogue, they're so divorced from real life that I just can't take them seriously. You know, I said on Twitter that I think the confession scene between Morgan and Tara is probably like one of the most realistic love confession scenes I've seen, because I've been in that spot where like one person struggles to just get to the point of confessing and have the other person be like, you're in love with me. Like I've been there on both ends. So I was like, yeah, I can relate to that. But it's kind of funny seeing Maddie like be like, oh man, those cliched romance scenes that always go like this. And I mean, let's face it, she just had a romance scene like that. Her scene was straight out of a movie, or in this case a visual novel, but like very, very, very deliberately as romantic and like blissfully special as possible, which was great. It made for a great contrast between the two confession scenes, but also it's like Maddie, come on, check yourself. But here I am, watching the sunlight reflect off the shimmering waters of the lake as the woman I love leans against me. And I think that maybe those scenes weren't so unrealistic after all. Okay, fair point. That's one way to be self-aware about it. Madison? What is it, sweetheart? I love that. I wasn't... So, okay, so I'm the kind of person who reads as I'm talking. I don't read and then talk. So I didn't see that sweetheart coming until I was saying it. And I wasn't prepared for Maddie to just start using nicknames. Which is cute. I mean, I use nicknames for my partner all the time. For Clara. And she uses them for me as well, so I'm used to that. But like, I was not prepared to see sweetheart all of a sudden. It's just so un-Maddie to me. Like, she's been so like, just like, fact of the matter this entire time. Alright, let's continue. What is it, sweetheart? Sweetheart? Oh my god, the game... I riff on the game, and then the game does the riffing for me. I don't use pet names. It's not like me at all. But with her, I feel like it fits. I know that I've said this before, and will probably say it many times in the future, but today and yesterday have been some of the happiest days of my life. Mine too. And it's okay. I'll never get tired of hearing you say that. She smiles at me, soft as ever, but hidden in her expression and in her tone of voice I can detect a tinge of sadness. I touch her face, running my thumb across her cheek. She closes her eyes and leans into the motion. Are you feeling okay? Of course. Why wouldn't I be? I don't know, you just looked a bit sad. Maybe it was my imagination. I half expect her to deny it, but instead she nods. You do know how to read me, don't you? I do. What's wrong? You can tell me anything, I promise. Only if you want to talk about it, of course. She pushes closer to me in response, resting her head on my chest. This day is so lovely, I don't want to say anything that could spoil it. You don't have to worry about that, Abigail. I love you, and that means I want to be there for you no matter what. We're going to have plenty of wonderful evenings, I promise. And being open with each other is the best way to make sure they stay wonderful. This is unlike me too. Usually on the first day of a relationship, I'm still a bumbling bag of nerves. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I move too fast or too slow? But it's different with Abigail. That fear isn't there. I can't quite explain why, I just feel like I don't have to worry with her. I was thinking about other happy days that I've had. How long it's been since then. And how the memories have since soured. How much have I told you about my sister? Not much. You mentioned that the two of you were close and that you spent a lot of time in the woods together, but that's it. We weren't just close. Helena and I were inseparable. When anything went wrong, she would always be there to protect me, and she swore that would never change. But fate had other plans for the two of us. She trails off. Every other time she mentioned her sister, it's only in passing. Her story last night about tracking deer is the only solid detail I have about her. At first, I expected her to stay quiet like before, but instead, she keeps talking. For as long as it existed, Eisenfeld has had a curse, you could call it. A terrible monster who would destroy the village if given the chance. To appease his terrible rage, we would offer sacrifice to it. Every generation, a new offering would be chosen, but it didn't just want flesh. The head priest would take the sacrifice into the forest to be offered to the horrible spirit. The sacrifice's soul and the head priest's body would both be consumed. Then the new head priest would emerge, having taken the form of the poor sacrificed victim. It was a painful reminder of those we had lost. When I found out that it would be a member of my family who was to be taken and given over, I wasn't shocked. There was only one thing that I cared about. That it wouldn't be my beloved Helena who was harmed. Her voice wavers before she falls silent. Before I can tell that she's said enough, she speaks again. Each word shakes as it leaves her mouth. I couldn't forget the joyous days of her childhood. I couldn't let such a kind soul suffer such a horrible fate. So when the time came, I offered myself. I volunteered to die so that Helena could live. And in that very moment, where our fates were sealed, I looked at them, at Helena, and do you know what I saw? Captivated by her tragic story, I can't even answer. I don't move my head or my lips. Relief. Not once did she try to stop me, or change my mind. Not that I would have let her, but I don't think she even thanked me. My parents cried, of course, but they didn't argue either. Neither of them stepped forward to take my place. No one did. While I'm sure my sacrifice was appreciated, I was quickly discarded without even a token effort of gesture or appreciation. My sister, who had sworn to always protect me, had no difficulty accepting the fact that I would die for her. What? She just gave you away? Just like that? If death looms over you long enough, it corrupts everything, even love. It didn't corrupt you? Perhaps. So I believe that's why I'm still here today. What do you mean? The first step of the ritual involved separating the sacrifice's body from its soul. From what she told me, as she did it, those poor victims usually try to resist, begging for someone else to be taken, and when their souls are ripped away, they're too damaged to carry on. But I didn't resist. I went peacefully, and so the gentle forest spirit, who I'd been raised to believe was some kind of demon, eventually came and took me away, and I've been here ever since. Her words carry a sense of finality. Not knowing what else to do, and still stunned by her story, I simply lean close to her and pull her into an embrace. There aren't any words that could be enough. Physical comfort is all I can offer. To my surprise though, when she finally pulls away from me, she looks happier than before. Just like I did earlier, she touches my cheek gently and then leans in for a kiss. Thank you for listening. I told the one person who matters, and now I think I can heal. I know, sweetheart. I love you. More than anything. I love you too. More than anything. She sighs contentedly and leans against my shoulder. She takes my hand, intertwines her fingers with mine. We sit there for a long time. We don't say anything. We don't even move. All we do is watch the sky and feel each other's heartbeats. I wake up with a headache, and I notice something's wrong. I'm alone. Abigail must have disentangled herself from my arm at some point, leaving me on my own. I get up and pace around the church, not seeing her. After a bit, I find her outside its doors. Good morning. Good morning, my love. Her lips smile, but her eyes don't. It's a look I'm familiar with by now. I slip an arm around her to take a spot by her side. Sleep okay? Well enough. I'm sure all my nights will be better now that they're spent beside you. I can't help it. I kiss her on the cheek and true joy brightens her face. How about you? Pretty good. I woke up with like a bad feeling though. A bad feeling? About what? I'm not sure. My head kinda hurts, so maybe that's it. Actually, now that I think about it, this is the first actual pain I've felt since turning. It's not the worst headache I've ever had, not by far, but it's enough to be annoying. It feels the same as being dehydrated or having a slight cold. Big mood! Ah, poor dear. She stands on her tiptoes to kiss my forehead. I felt the same actually. I had hoped that stepping outside might help, but it seems not. She rubs her temples and I notice just how ragged her eyes look. How long have you been out here? A while. Perhaps an hour or so. I was afraid I'd wake you. Nah, I slept right through it. It's not just a coincidence that we both feel sick, is it? Abigail purses her lips. Her brief silence is enough confirmation. No, I doubt it is. It must be something to do with the forest. The trees before us sway in the breeze. To me, they look the same as ever. No traces of lingering sickness or pain. You felt bad the other day too, when we first met the fairies. Was it the same thing then? Most likely. Changes in the air. Something's happening and it isn't good. I think of the fairies, fleeing some unseen terror. Is it Evelyn? I half expect to shake her head. I wanted to say no, but she nods. I think so. I don't know what she's done or why, but this can't all be coincidence. I nod. My thoughts turn to Tara and Morgan. I wish they could just get out of here. Leave me to my fate and escape. Let Evelyn do whatever it is she's doing while they're across the ocean, safe. I know that won't happen though. Tara's not the type to back down from a fight. Except this time, I know she's hugely outmatched, even with Morgan's help. What about the forest spirit? You said it's a guardian of the woods, right? Why doesn't it stop her? I'm sure it's still doing what it can, but it's just as intimately connected to the forest as the fairies are. Far more than you or I. So as the forest itself weakens, so does it. Worry creases her brow. Is there any way we can help? Not that I know of. I can tell she's not really happy with that answer. Maybe we can think of something together. There has to be something we can do. Yes, perhaps. She looks up at me adoringly. I feel like I can accomplish anything with you by my side. Her loving words are nearly enough to counteract the worry that I feel. We've already beaten death. There's no way Evelyn can stop us. At least not a second time. First we have to figure out how. Abigail slips her hand into mine where it fits comfortably. Perhaps you'll make an optimist out of me yet, Madison. Shall we go for a walk? Absolutely. I'm glad that our changing relationship hasn't changed our routine. The walks around the forest keep me grounded. They're enjoyable, but also a solemn reminder of how trapped we are here. My dream of finding a way out hasn't disappeared or diminished at all. It's just evolved to include Abigail too. There's no way I'm leaving these woods without her. We chat idly as we stroll, enjoying the newfound comfort and intimacy that comes from being lovers rather than just friends. The pain in my head is still there, and I'm sure Abigail still suffers from hers as well. But it's easy enough to ignore, in lieu of the pleasure that simply being together brings. We reach the edge of the fairy clearing, where we always seem to end up. Abigail is glued to my side. I wouldn't have it any other way. We're probably a little early to meet Alma, although they sometimes come by at this time. This grove is one of the easier places for the animals to come drink during winter, so it attracts all kinds of wildlife. Yeah, I've noticed all kinds of tracks in the snow leading around here. She nods, pleased. But then, we enter the grove itself and my blood runs cold. I was so tempted to go see you on the next episode, but I can't do that to myself. I can't. I have to click through, because... Okay. Just ahead. No! No! I read ahead. Just ahead, lying prone on the frozen ground, is a fawn that I know is Alma. It's clearly dying, if not already dead. With a shriek, Abigail drops my hand. No! I can feel her anguish cut through me like a knife, visceral and burning. Dashing over, hands outstretched, she falls to her knees and presses a tender hand against his snout. A small motion confirms that it's alive, if just barely. It leans into her, either in fear or in recognition, eyes wild. No! No! What's happening to you? I move closer as well. They're not so close as to crowd them, and what I witness makes my stomach churn. Gaping wounds perforate the poor thing's body, staining the ground red with blood. They look like knife wounds or bite marks, but there's no visible damage or puncture. It's more like its body simply opened up. Abigail flails her hands, clearly wanting to help, but afraid to touch it and cause more pain. She turns to me teary-eyed. Madison, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. I kneel down beside Abigail. The lacerations covering Alma's body are clear and even, but varying in size. Some are minute, so small as to be nearly invisible. The largest is a gash that runs the length of her torso. How does this even happen? Through choking sobs, Abigail manages to answer. Magic. These are not normal injuries. It's the forest. The forest is sicker than I thought. And all of his children are hurting for it too. So we get headaches while Alma gets this. I shudder. Is it random? Could it have just as easily been one of us lying here bleeding out? Maybe our ghostliness is more of a blessing than I thought in this case, though without it we wouldn't be affected by the forest illness at all. Leaning over, I gently stroke the deer's head. Its breathing is restless and agonized, but it seemed to register my presence. My thumb brushes against a wound I didn't notice, and I jerk my hand back while Alma groans in pain. I'm sorry! I'm sorry! The deer's blood is vicious, unnaturally so, and slick like motor oil. It sticks to my fingers, stretching and webbing. It's neither warm nor cold. It's unnervingly neutral. I try to rub it off in the snow, but my fingers pass through the ice and dirt. Of course. My hand trembles with the disgusting feeling that I'll never be clean again. Abigail is still beside herself, wringing her hands impotently. There's nothing that either of us can do. Just sit there and wait as Alma passes away in agony. But then, a tremor reverberates through the clearing. The ground shakes and the stones rattle from the branches. Fairy baubles dance up and down. Abigail and I both face the forest in the direction of the sound, already knowing what's coming. The forest spirit strides into view, as tall as the trees, but no taller. It brushes past trees with no notice of the branches and snow that it disturbs. As it draws into the clearing, it acknowledges with a level gaze. It's been a while since Abigail and I have been by to see it. The deer looks up at the forest bear with pained recognition, its eyes wide and breathing shallow with pathetic relief. Abigail looks up at it too, tearfully, clearly glad to see it. The spirit looms closer, its great presence alone seeming to revitalize the air around us. My headache vanishes in an instant. The spirit stretches out one immense finger, drawing from head to tail across the deer's mangled body. The two lock eyes. As the spirit retracts his hand, it curls the finger inward, calling Alma to it. In one motion, the deer's eyes roll backwards as life exits its body. At the same time, its spectral form, ephemeral and perfect, rise from its corpse. Boundless as in life, it gives us one last glance, and then springs across the fallen snow before vanishing into thin air, gone to join some spectral herd somewhere. Abby wipes her eyes of tears and stands. She moves to the spirit's side and gently pats it. "Thank you. I'm glad you came." The spirit's shoulders sag, its branches hanging low and still despite the slight breeze. I notice what looks like burn marks on its hide, where part of its wooden skin is blackened and dark. Without a doubt it's Evelyn's doing as well. I'm reminded of an old man, putting a child to rest. Sorrow and surely pain as well weigh heavily on it. I wonder how it knew to come. Did it feel Alma's pain? Or perhaps Abigail's? Bearing the emotional weight of an entire ecosystem, my heart aches for the spirit as well as for Abigail, who seems forever hurt by her powerlessness. The spirit and I meet eyes again, and I bow my head in reverence. I don't know it well enough to speak to it like Abigail, but for Alma's sake, I'm also glad it's here. It stoops down and picks up the deer's corpse. Blood now runs freely from the injuries, somehow not clotting, and I have to look away. Without a second thought for us, the spirit turns and leaves once more, going back the way it came. Abigail and I watch it go. In all, the encounter could have lasted more than a minute or two. Long after the last of footfalls have faded away, Abigail and I sit in silence. I hold her close until finally we return to the church. The rest of the day passes quietly, the earlier euphoria of our relationship being overshadowed by fear of the shifting forest. Though Abigail is never more than her arm's reach away from me, and usually closer, she's nearly silent. Our headaches return not longer after leaving the fairy clearing, stronger than before. Now some combination of pain and sorrow keeps us both quiet. At some point I reach for her hand out of habit, and that's when it happens. My hand passes right through hers as if she isn't even there. "Abigail!" I say the first thing that comes to mind. With a fright she leaps up, searching around for the source of my panic. Seems she didn't even feel it. "Look!" I reach for her hand once again. It passes right through. It's like when we first met, before we could even speak with each other. She understands instantly. "Oh no! Oh no, oh no!" "What's happening? Are you okay? Do you feel any different?" I don't know enough about magic to even start to guess why this might be happening to her. "Should we take her to the forest spirit? Or get you some rest? Or... Madison, it's not me!" "What? It's you!" I look down at myself. Sure enough, my whole body is slightly transparent. I can see the floor of the church through myself. Vertigo hits me and I stumble. Abigail lurches forward to catch me, but of course she isn't able to. Dread fills my heart. Please no. Not again. What do I do? I slap my hand. A pathetically ridiculous action. I can't even feel it. My own hand goes right through me. Shaky, Abigail stands up, holding her head. "Something's happening to the forest. This must all be connected somehow. It's simply impossible otherwise. What could Evelyn be doing?" I know that she has to be involved. I don't even have to ask. "I have no idea. Nor do I know what she's choosing now of all times to do it." "Do you think the forest spirit can help us?" The forest spirit is all I can think of. The only ally that we have. At least it's a powerful one. Abigail looks away. I'm sure the spirit was her first thought too. "Perhaps. We can try." Wordlessly, she heads out of the church and I follow behind her. The happiness and joy that was shared so recently has evaporated entirely. I wish that life, whatever form it takes for us, could just slow down. That way, we could have more than a moment to rest. But I know that's the impossible. I know that that's impossible while Evelyn is still out there. I know that one way or another, we're going to have to be the ones to deal with her. But what I don't know is if we even have a chance. Do you know what's going on? Has something like this happened to you before? It hasn't. This is the first I've seen of it, but I think I know. I think that the force is having trouble keeping you here. The magic is getting weaker, too. So does that mean that I leave the implication unspoken. Abigail halts in her tracks, facing me with fire determination. No! I won't let anything bad happen to you. Not again. I promise, Madison. I don't know if she has the power to keep that promise, but I can only hope so. Okay. I trust you. I really do. Believing in Abigail is my only option. But even if it weren't, it's like she said. Together, we can get through anything. I try not to think of what it would mean if I'm wrong. I'm not even totally sure myself. Would I just cease to exist? Go on to an afterlife? Something else? None of the options are especially appealing, and I know that dwelling on them will only make me feel worse, so I just focus on the here and now and on sticking close to Abigail. But even I can tell she's right when she says the whole forest is affected. Aside from the harsh winds, everything else feels subdued somehow. The trees don't seem to stand as tall, and the leaves and needles look dull, even by wintry standards. What little sunlight there is feels dreary rather than bright. A light snow falls from the sky, but the heavy clouds overhead promise more, and soon. It occurs to me that we've been walking longer than we normally have to. Instead of changing the forest path to get us there quickly, we're following the regular route through the trees. Hey, why aren't we taking the shortcut through the forest? Is it too sick to let us do that? Wringing her hands, Abigail looks away. It's more that I'm afraid to try. If I push myself too hard, then... She leaves the consequences spoken. I can imagine what they might be. The same as what's happening to me, or worse. Whatever exactly that is. Yeah, I have thought of that. It's okay. Take as much time as you need. It's been so long since I visited the spirit. Our brief moment in the grove with Alma was the first time in days. I wonder if it's missed me. Of course it has. Who wouldn't? You're far too sweet, Madison. She nods her head against me. The angle's a little awkward since we're still walking, but it's nice. Then she jerks away like she was stung. Oh! You're back! Back? Her hand develops mine, smooth and soft like always, rather than passing through me. Oh! Just because she can, she leans forward and quickly gives me a quick peck on the lips. I was so worried. Me too. I rub my arms and sides, making sure that I'm all there. Everything seems to be in order. Hopefully it's permanent. Indeed, it's not much farther to the spirit either. We should hurry. Sweat makes her brow glisten a little. She's definitely still feeling strained, even though I can tell she's trying to hide it. Don't push yourself too hard, sweetie. I won't. Still, despite her words, the longer we walk, the more visible a toll it seems to take on her. Her steps slow down, even though she wanted to hurry, and her breathing sounds labored. Are you sure that you're alright? I'm fine, it's just... Rubbing her eyes, she shakes her head. Right then, a pile of snow hits the ground a few feet away from us. Looking up, I spot a tree dropping. It bows angled down as it's bent. It's the forest again, not me alone. She voices what I already knew. Something terrible must have happened for it to be this way. Since I'm unable to feel the forest like she can, all I can do is watch and worry. Just now, or at least today? Maybe. Or we may only be feeling the effects. Only now be feeling the effects. I'm not sure. I can tell by frustration in her voice that she's nearly as in the dark about it all as I am. I had to remind myself that what she knows, she only picked up by intuition and years of observation. I'm fortunate enough to have a guide as knowledgeable as she is about the situation, even if she doesn't know everything. I know when we're getting close to the grove of ancestral trees, from the change in the air and the way that the trees are larger than before, that profound sense of being watched and of primal energy is still present, but even that feels mellower, or maybe strained. Through everything, there's also the acrid smell of smoke. Suddenly, Abigail leaps out a yelp of horror and dashes forward. Abigail! I follow right on her heels. Oh no! It doesn't take long to discover what she found. Where once there was a mighty tree, all that remains is a blistered and charred husk, blackened by flames. A painful buzzing penetrates my head, nearly unbearable, and all I can do is watch in horror as a foreign sorrow emanates. Even I can tell this is the forest crying out, here at the locus of its pain. Even I'm affected. I can't imagine how Abigail must feel. Her fingers run across the damaged wood as if searching for a sign of life. I have to remember this isn't just another part of the forest. This is its heart, its very soul. The heart of the woods, if you will. And for so long, it was also her home. How did I not know? I've been so happy these few days that I must have blinded myself to the pain of the forest. From behind, I wrapped my arms around her, pressing my face against her shoulder. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, though. Even if you knew, you couldn't have changed it. If anything, we were lucky to have those few days. She clings to me, pinching it in my arms into an even tighter embrace. As I feel her cry against me, my own uselessness feel like even more of a curse than death ever was. I wish it was some magic word or spell that I could use to make things better. But all I can do is hug her tightly and warmly, and hope that I'm as much of a reassurance for her as she is for me. Then, without warning, I once again see my arms go transparent, and the feeling of Abigail against me disappear. Although this time it's not as big a shock. It's still a reminder that we don't have long to wait. Abigail notices and steadies herself alone. Let's keep going. The spirit must be around here too. Why doesn't it stop Evelyn? Isn't that its job as guardian? It probably can't. I'm sure it wants to, but it relies on the forest for strength. So if the forest is weak, then it will be too. In fact, that might be Evelyn's intention. The sinking feeling in my stomach intensifies. If she's even stronger than the forest spirit, then what hope do we have? I don't voice that fear though. I'm sure Abigail's already worried about the same thing. It isn't much longer before we encounter the spirit. At first, we almost miss it. The forest spirit stands idle in the clearing, as if lost in thought. It barely seems to notice us when we approach. A slight tilt of its head is the only acknowledgement we get. The bird is gone. There used to be a bird here. It's small. Smaller than I've seen it before. It's barely as tall as I am. The lights in its eye, usually bright and terrifying, have gone dim. It looks more like the wounded deer from the clearing the other day than the being who helped it pass on. Just like the trees it protects, its branches sag and are bare. A few have jagged ends, as if something snapped them off. None of the wildlife that usually accompany it is around. Instead, it seems alone and abandoned. Though it hasn't been long since we saw it last, it looked significantly pained. I wonder if its salvation of Alma was taxing on it. Abigail cries out again. It's like when we came across the burned tree. As anguished as she sounded then, this time it's even worse. I hang back as she runs to its side, not wanting to intrude on a private moment. She places a hand on its leg, crooning something that I can't make out. Then the spirit tilts its head a little bit more to face her. The motion is stilted and janky. As exhausted and sick as Abigail seems, the forest spirit seems to have it 10 times worse. It makes a mournful sound, a deep and sonorous hum. It seems to echo and reverberate off the trees around us. Though I can't understand it like Abigail can, the pain and suffering in its tone is obvious. Abigail presses her cheek against it, patting the creature gently, the same way she sometimes comforts me. I look down on myself, shimmery and transparent, and I'm pretty sure we won't be getting any assistance from the spirit. A wave of nausea hits me as I ponder just what that means. I don't have any backup plans. If Abigail does, she didn't mention them. It's my only choice to stay like this, and hope my condition doesn't get any worse. Ever since I came here to the forest, it felt like I haven't had any control of my own fate, and I can't have a word this will be the final nail in the coffin, perhaps literally. I fidget, adjusting my scarf and hood and glasses countless times. Abigail remained close to the spirit, pacing slow circles around it as she talks to it softly. I wonder what she's saying. Sometimes the spirit will hum, or make a gesture that could be a nod. All the while I keep my respectful distance. At some point I realize that it's snowing. I don't know how long it's been going on. As some of the snow settles on the spirit's broad shoulder, it doesn't look festive or pretty. It just looks pitiful. The spirit sags, bearing the weight of the world. I'm not sure how long I wait, but I don't rush Abigail at all. This could be the last opportunity she has to speak with her forest spirit, judging by its condition. I'm sure she's thinking the same thing. I flipped between solid and intangible so many times that I stopped keeping track. I just watched the two of them. Finally, Abigail pulls herself away from the spirit. She approaches me, looking like she wants to say something but doesn't. Her eyes say it all though. I try to hug her, but she softly shakes her head, and instead escorts me away, back into the woods. Though she never looks back, I do, but just once. The spirit's lonely eyes watch us go. Heavy snow. But this has been a really long Madison section. I actually was like, hey, I should play this until the end of the Maddie section, and then I will close the episode. It's been over an hour now. Maybe I should... what time is it actually? It's... God, it's the middle of the night. Let's get through this story section and we'll see them afterwards. Okay. Heavy snow batters us while we walk, though of course its chill doesn't reach us. Our visibility is effectively zero. Too weak to even alter the path of the forest, Abigail clings to my side, trusting me to lead us back to the church. Although I maintain a brave face, I'm not fully confident in my ability to get us there. The blizzard calls to mind memories of the day I died. Although I don't let myself dwell on them, I'm not alone this time. I have something, someone, more to live for. Our journey is strenuous. We move at a glacial pace, but it's the fastest that Abigail can manage. Her steps are heavy and slow, and as much as I want to urge her along, I know that I can't. I'm glad she's watching the ground and her feet rather than me, so she doesn't have to see the worry on my face. Every time I sort of think that I got the whole ghost thing figured out, something new arises to complicate it all over again. And this time I don't even have Abigail's experience to guide me. What happens if she loses the ability to walk altogether, or to speak? What happens if the magic that keeps me here runs out? The occasional flickering on my body makes that a very real concern right now. I hold tightly to her hand, the only anchor of comfort and security right now, but even that has grown clammy and cold. Swallowing a lump in my throat, we march on. Trees bow in the wind, trying to turn their backs against it. For the first time that I can remember, there aren't any woodland creatures out and about. No mice or rabbits, no chirping birds, not even a panicked deer, facing in and out of existence like me. It may as well just be me and her and no one else in the universe. Come on, I'm sure we're almost there, it can't be much farther. I say the words for my own sake as much as for hers, though in truth I have no idea if I'm right or not. For all I know, we could be heading in the totally opposite direction of the church. Even then, once we arrive at the church, I'm not sure what to do. Will she get better with time to rest? Will I? Right now, the church is just a goal. It gives us something tangible to work towards, something to keep our feet moving, slowly or not. I'm sure you're right. Her voice is barely a murmur. I can only hope that she's saving her energy on purpose. I'm afraid to ask. I wonder how much of what's happening is by the mayor's design. When everything stems from her, it's impossible to know how much was deliberate and how much was simply the ripple effect of what she's done. I wonder if she even considers us a threat, or gives us any thought at all. If she doesn't, then maybe we can use that against her. Of course, first we have to reach a point where we can do that. During a momentary lapse in the blizzard, I'm able to make out a welcome sight in the haze. A warped and curled tree there, distinct to remember from an earlier trip. Look, you recognize that tree too, right? I'm pretty sure you were the one who showed it to me the first time. We're almost home. Abigail nods weakly, though she doesn't say anything. I squeeze her hand, trying to impart some strength into her. It kills me to see her like this, and I give anything to be able to help her. Almost there. You got this. She nods again, unable to do or say more. Except she doesn't stop nodding. Like a bobblehead, I tug her along, trying to lead her the rest of the short way, but she's rooted to the spot. Son? And then she collapses. And the world goes back. Oh God! What the fuck? Oh wow! This visual novel just gave me a jump scare. I jolt and choke on nothing as I gasp for a breath that I don't actually need. Abigail has fallen to her knees. I didn't even feel her hand slip out of mine. I try to take the half step, cross a few centimeters, a moment later it's black. I didn't click for that. That wasn't timed. They timed that so that you like if you're while you're reading it you wouldn't get cut off. Wow. Wow. Holy shit. They're going Undertale on us now, okay. And? Oh, okay. I was certain that was going to be a perspective change. It takes me a moment to understand, and I immediately wish that I hadn't. Oh my god, I just stopped existing for a second. Profound dread grips my heart. Looking down at myself once again, I can see right through my hand and arm to the snow accumulating beneath us. Not good. This is extremely not good. I collapse to the ground beside Abigail, but at least on my own accord. I try to shake her by the shoulder, and it takes several tries before I can maintain a form long enough to even touch her. I'm sorry, Madison. I just need a little break. With visible effort, she turns to look at me. I don't think she even realized what's happening. But then I face the annoying sister for another moment, and when I come back, horror is clearly etched onto her face. Finding some hidden reserve of strength, she lunges towards me and grabs my hand. Immediately, everything goes back to normal. Madison, are you okay? Can you hear me? I'm fine now. I hold her hands a bit too tighter to reaffirm it. Are you okay though? I'm just a little tired, is all. She forces herself up, again, looking more than a little tired. Immediately she sways and nearly falls, but I catch and steady her. She leans into me and I pull her into a hug. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Shh. It's okay. Gently I stroke her hair. In truth, I'm terrified. I don't want her to see that. It only makes things worse. I guide Abigail over to a fallen tree where we can sit down, indifferent to the blizzard. Even though the church isn't much farther, I don't want to push her too much right now. I wrap one arm around her as we sit, and I hold her close. Where can we go for help? Maybe if the forest spirits see how rough it is for us, but she shakes her head. Believe me, it would if it could. But I fear it's even weaker than I am right now. It's much more in tune with the forest than me, so it's suffering the effects even more strongly. All this because Evelyn killed one tree? It wasn't just any tree. It was one of the ancestral trees, the oldest one. They're the heart of the forest. All of its strength comes from them. I can't pretend to understand their importance, but I know that Abigail isn't exaggerating. Not at a time like this. So what do? There has to be some solution, right? Can we plant another tree or something? Even as I say it, I know the idea is ridiculous. We don't exactly have the centuries it would take for a new tree to grow up as big and strong as the one that was killed. The forest spirit is supposed to become the next one. All the ancestral trees were once spirits like the one you've met. What's stopping it? The mare? Her hand clenches around my shoulder, where she was holding on tightly. That's right. I hadn't even realized. Realized what? Groaning, Abigail sits up straight. As long as we're close like this, it seems like I'm able to maintain my physical form. The spirit can't pass on its own. It needs the help of a fairy queen. That's one of her duties to the forest. But there's no fairy queen right now. Yes, which means there's no one to complete the ritual. The rest goes unspoken, as we both come to the same realization. An awful one. Madison. I know. There aren't any other options, are there? None that I know of. I close my eyes and take a deep breath, heading off the wave of fear that I know is coming. I'm sorry. Again, It's okay. You don't need to apologize, really. But, taking both her hands in my own, I turned to face her. Understanding, her eyes closed halfway as the lips part to meet mine. Part of me wishes I could spend an eternity like this, together, warm, with the woman I love. But even that isn't an option anymore. Our kiss ends far too quickly, although I'm not sure it could ever have been enough. When we part, there are tears on Abigail's face. I'm not sure if they're mine or hers. It'll be okay, somehow. I know it. I'll be with you, no matter what. I know. Thank you. Seriously, I couldn't do this without you. I love you. I love you too. As one, we turn and face the forest again, putting the church behind us. Resigning myself to what comes next, I point in the direction we need to go. Let's go visit the fairies. I'm sure they're still looking for a new queen. Oh, okay, this is not ending, so we're ending it here. I was certain we were going to have perspective change several times here. I'm sorry, this has to end here. I need to be able to edit this and upload it and do stuff. Oh god, this is so good. Oh wow. So yeah, predictions are still that Galadura is the original Fairy Queen, and that Evelyn trapped her in the cat's body to weaken the forest. And we already know that Galadura was a fairy after all. Maybe it was the missing fairy that was in the vision. I don't know. We'll see. God, this game is so good. Like, I'm saving my big summary of my thoughts on this game until like we're done with it. But it's been a very long time. So long that I can't say how long. Since I felt this personally touched by the writing of a game, visual novel or otherwise, and that says a lot, considering I just before this finished Kingdom Hearts 3, which I was certain, I was positive that was going to be like the biggest emotional, nostalgic, important experience for me all year. And sorry, Kingdom Hearts, I love you, but this is even more personal and touching. I love this so much. And with that, I'll see you on the next episode, which will be going up at some point, probably the day after this goes up or something. Bye.